Hey all, Luigi here with another video. Today we're going to be talking about everything to do with verses. Whether you're a beginner or someone more intermediate, looking for ways to improve, going to be going through a ton of topics. As usual, I'll have the description, or in the description, I'll have the timestamps if you're just interested in a specific topic in relation to verses. So what am I going to cover? I'm going to talk about what verses is. I'm going to talk about verses research and what that can do for you. I'm going to talk about all of the days of verses and what you should be doing, along with day 0, which is the day before verses starts. I'm going to talk about arms race overlaps, how capital buffs can help you out, and then also going to talk about the rewards that you get with verses. So that all being said, let's dive right in. So you can see I have this verses icon on the top right. I'll click on that, and this is really the hub for everything to do with verses. So what is verses, right? So verses is a weekly event where your alliance faces another alliance, whether it's on your server or another server. And each day, certain tasks give you as an individual points that at the end of the day all get added up, and whichever alliance has the highest number of points for that day wins that day, right? So you can see here we have days 1 through 6. Day 1, whoever wins that gets awarded 1 point. 2 through 5 is 2 points, and day 6 is 4 points. So whoever wins at the end of the 6th day, whoever has the most number of points wins and gets some nice rewards. So this is, the hub here, and then there's this dual league tab. So this is the actual league that you're in. There are 3 leagues. There's silver, gold, and diamond. Of course, the higher the league you're in, the better the rewards are. And again, I'll go over the rewards later on in the video. So you'll see here on this, today's theme tab. This is this is showing me so I'm on day 1, radar training. So these are all the activities that give points for day 1. And you'll notice there are these chests. And these are personally for me, when I reach these milestones of points, I can open up these chests and get a bunch of goodies. And you can, as you start off in the game, you'll have these first 3 unlocked. And in order to unlock the rest of them, because there are 9, you will need to complete research. So let's take a look at the research here. So you can see mine is maxed out. Pretty easy to tell, right? The giant versus one. That's the one. So all these, what do you call it here? Research nodes, right? Outside of the 2 glowy ones, they all just kind of increase what, the activities that you do. It increases the amount of points you get for doing them. Right. So, I mean, this is a very important part about being an alliance is being part of the verses and contributing to the verses. So this is definitely an important research to max out pretty quickly. And the other reason you want to do it is because it increases your rewards. So this first glowy box thingy, this unlocks the next 3 boxes for your personal versus rewards. And as you probably guessed, the final one unlocks the last 3 boxes. So definitely good to do. And you can see, right, when you go to these boxes, it gives you like the estimated value in diamonds of what is in the boxes. So you can see it gets pretty up there. In this last box, you get a bunch of good stuff. So highly recommend getting in there and doing research. So let's talk about day 0, right? So day 0 is the day before verses. So you can see I'm on day 1, right? So day 1, you can see I get points for radar tasks, and you can see I get points for gathering resources, right? So what does this mean? This means that I want to save my radar tasks, as many as I can, before day one starts. So that way I have a ton of radar tasks that I can pop and get a bunch of points for. And the same thing with gathering, right? So let's like take a look at the world. You can see I already actually have a couple squads gathering right now from overnight. But if I were to search for, say a gold mine, oh, this one's mostly taken, so let's try to find a different one. All right, here's a full one. So if I were to go to mine this, you can see this takes 10, almost 11 hours to mine this whole thing. So what this means is that usually it depends on, if you're on a server that only has max level 10, this has max level 12. It sort of depends on your gather time for your squads. But as long as the gather time completes after the versus starts, you get credit for all of that gathered material. So for me, if I were on day 0 the day before, I would start this 10 hours and 40 minutes before day 1 of versus starts. That way it completes right when versus starts. I get all of the credit for all those resources gathered for that versus point. So you should be doing that all day zeros. Send all your squads out to start gathering, so that it completes after day 1 starts. So that's a big thing. Okay, so let's talk about radar tasks. I know for me personally, this was a little hard to understand initially, but leading up to the first day of versus, right, you have like 2 full days to gather radar tasks, and there actually is a bit of a strategy involved with this. So you'll notice, I pull up my radar tasks, and I have several of them that have the little red dot, right? So that red dot means that it is completed and ready to be collected. Okay. So, and I have a bunch of these ones here that are not, they don't have the red dot next to them. So when you're saving radar tasks, it's important when you open up your radar and you have these tasks that don't have that red completion dot, you want to make sure that you do complete them, but you do not want to collect them. So that's the distinction. So I'm going to hit my quick perform button here, send out my guys, and you'll see all these will turn with the red dot. And this is the state when you're saving radar tasks. This is the state that you want to keep your radar tasks. It's important because if you do not complete it, so say for example, you have a task to kill a Doom Elite, and you don't actually kill the Doom Elite. If you wait too long, that will go away and you will lose it. So something to keep in mind, this is the state that you want to keep your radar tasks in. Now you can see on the top left, there's this question mark and it shows 2 out of 40. So the 2 out of 40 means that I have 2 additional radar tasks on top of the ones on my screen that are basically saved, collected. And when I complete or collect the ones on my screen, I'll get 2 additional tasks, and I can store up to 40. Something that's important to know. So if I click on this question mark, a timer will pop up. Now this timer is the time until I get a new set of radar tasks. And in order to keep that timer going, you never want to sit at your max cap. So for me, that would be 40 out of 40. If I sit at 40 out of 40, there will never be a timer. The timer doesn't continue to get your next set of tasks. So that's something that is important to keep in mind when you're talking about day 0 and going into the first day of versus. You want to be at least 1 shy of that cap so that your timer continues to go. Now, the other thing that you can look at to say, all right, well, how many tasks am I going to get? And things like that is you can look at, click on this little radar button. For me, it's level 10. And this will tell you the details, right? So for me, I get 11 tasks every 6 hours, and I can store up to 40 tasks. And right now, my maximum tasks on the screen can be 9. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So that'll tell you how many tasks you're going to get when that 6-hour timer expires. So like, well, I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but that's what you want to do. Again, the main thing is make sure all the tasks on your screen are complete, and make sure you never reach the full cap of the amount of tasks that you can save. And since I'm already on day 1, I'm just going to go ahead and complete these because I'm in day 1 already and I want to collect these rewards. Perfect. All right, so that's really what you do leading up to the first day of Versus. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of time now to talk about Arms Race. So I already explained how Versus is essentially every day you get points for completing certain tasks. Arms Race is essentially like a mini Versus. It's a daily event where instead of Versus where every day certain tasks give you points, Arms Race, it's every 4 hours certain tasks give you points. So this is again a daily event, and every 4 hours what gives you points changes. And so what that means is that there are certain times of the day where what gives you points for Arms Race also gives you points for Versus. So this is a very important concept, especially when you're in a Warzone duel with another server, because the more individuals on your server that win Arms Race, that gives points towards your Warzone duel. And if you win your Warzone duel, that gives you your server rights to invade another server. So something very important to keep in mind for that. So how do you see? How do you know what gives you points? Well, there's this nice little calendar button here that tells you what time certain things give you points. So you can see, I'm in day 4 now. Right when the server reset, it was tech research. And then 4 hours later, it's drone, then hero advancement, city building, so forth and so on. At the end of each day, whatever individual has the most points gets a little reward. Along with, well, depending upon where you place, you get some rewards for that. And you can see here that so every 4 hours, there are these 3 boxes that unlock that give you skill medals and speed ups and resources. And then every day you have these 3 boxes that you can get. So basically every time you unlock one of these boxes, every 4 hours, you gain these Arms Race badges. And then once you collect 30 badges, you unlock these 3 chests at the top. So that's really, for me, is my goal is to always unlock every chest that I can to make sure that I get the rewards. And so, like I said, I'm in day 1 in Versus right now. So what gives points in day 1 is drone, using drone XP. And there's also hero XP spent gives points in day 1. So I can take a look at my schedule for Arms Race, and I can see at between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. I will get points for my Arms Race for drone boost, and I'll also get it for Versus. And then I can see from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I will get points for using hero XP, which also lines up with day 1 of Versus. It's important to note that these schedules never change. It'll always be the same overlaps at the same time. Of course, like, might think, all right, drone boost has a overlap between 1 and 5 a.m. Well, I'll probably be asleep at that time, and that's fine. It is what it is. It's up to you if you want to get up and handle that or not. But that is really the crux of the Arms Race overlap. So now that we talked about the overlap, let's just like get into day one of verses. And actually, even before I talk about day one, I want to talk about the most important thing that you can do to get as many points as possible in verses, regardless of what day it is or what have you. The most important concept is save the things that give you points on a given day for the entire week until you're back at that day again. What do I mean by that? So let's take a look at day one. Here, I get points for drone parts and drone battle data, right? There are no other days in verses that I get points for using drone parts or battle data. So that means that throughout the week, I want to save all of my battle data and all of my drone parts. I never ever, like, you're on your home base screen, you see a part glowing, you're like, oh, I should press the upgrade button because it's glowing and I can do it. No, the answer is no. You want to save that only for the day that it gives you points for verses. And that's really the key. These rewards that you get for unlocking for contributing 7.2 million points, this is something that is easily attainable, even for free-to-play players, as long as you do what I say. As long as you keep and you save the things that give you points for the day that it's going to give you points. So I just want to really stress that and kind of help you achieving certain minimums or unlocking the full rewards that you're capable of doing. So for day one, we already talked about what gives you points in day one, so I won't really get too much into it. The one thing I'll say, actually, there's two things I want to say specifically about day one that we haven't talked about already. One is that you get points for hero XP on day one. You also get it on day 4 for hero day. Some people are like, I don't want to use hero XP on day 1. I want to save it for day 4 to just use all of my hero stuff on one day. But there really isn't any reason not to use hero XP on this day. The one exception to that is if you're going to upgrade your base level on base expansion day, which is day 2, and you're thinking about opening up your hero XP chests, you probably want to save that until after you upgrade your base, because you get more hero XP based on your base level when you open up those chests. But yeah, I mean, I would say whatever you need to do to meet the minimum to get all your full rewards is what I would do. And the other thing I would mention about day 1 is drone parts. So as you increase the level of your drone, getting your hands on drone parts becomes very difficult. They're hard to come by. They're few and far between. So definitely anytime you have an opportunity to get drone parts, definitely do that and make sure you save them for the day 1 of verses to actually spend. Okay, so that's it for day 1. Let's talk about day 2. So day 2 is base, otherwise known as base expansion days. You get points for, clicked on the wrong one. You get points for using speed ups, increasing your building power, and dispatching ultra rare trucks and legendary tasks and recruiting survivors. Before I get into the first part, let me just quickly go through legendary secret tasks and ultra rare trucks. You should always use and dispatch ultra rare trucks and use your rerolls to do that, because you really want to maximize the rewards you're going to get every day. I've already sent out my 4 trucks today, but the other thing I see people doing with trucks is you have 4 slots available to you. So that means, by default, when I first started, I was like, all right, well, I have 4 trucks. And if you have the monthly pass, you have 4 squads, or you might have 3 squads. So I'm just going to I'll just send out all my trucks at the same time. But what I've learned is that you really don't want to do that, because usually especially your third squad, sometimes your second squad, and especially your fourth squad, they're a lot weaker than your main squad when you start off in the game. And that means the weaker the squad is that you send out with your trucks, the more likely it is that you're going to face someone, or someone's going to be able to have strong enough power to attack you and replace it. So what you really want to do is, if you only have like one really strong squad, you can send one truck out 4 times a day with that one squad to really minimize the amount of times that you could get attacked and looted. For me personally, I send 2 trucks because I have 2 pretty strong squads, so I send 2 trucks out at a time. But yeah, just something that I think you should think about, and something that I don't see people do too often. So just some advice there. And then in terms of your secret tasks, you can, depending upon your level, I think the mega refresh button is locked behind level, if I recall correctly. But the mega refresh button will essentially change all of your tasks to ultra rare. So it's like on days where you get points for sending ultra rare tasks out, it's definitely a good thing to use. It uses up a certain number of refreshes that you have. And if I think you don't have enough refreshes, it also costs diamonds. So something you can do there. If you don't have that and you're just refreshing, like typically what I do is I'll send out, all my ultra rare tasks that I have, or legendary tasks, and then I refresh, and then I kind of keep doing that until I get all of them out, except maybe the last 2. Once I get to the last 2 tasks, I don't get too picky about it, because it could take a lot of rerolls to change those last 2 tasks to ultra rare. So just something to keep in mind there. And the other tip that I have for secret tasks is, when I first started to play the game, I would just at server reset, I'd go and I'd just send everything out and then go to bed, whatever. And I've realized that one thing that people don't know is, if you look here, I am trying to see if there is, I think it's somewhere here. I can't find it, or at least I'm skipping through stuff too quickly. But when you complete a secret task and you complete it perfectly, then you have a chance at getting extra map pieces. So you really don't want to if you leave your tasks overnight, the likelihood of it getting looted increases a ton, right? Because usually, legendary secret tasks, they take 2 hours to complete. Epic ones take an hour, and then like the super rare ones take like 4 or 5 hours. So if server reset for me is at 9 p.m. If I send an ultra rare task that finishes in 2 hours and I decide to go to bed at 10:30, and I don't wake up until 7, 8 o'clock, I mean, you're talking about a lot of hours between the time I went to bed, or between the time the task finishes and the time I wake up to collect it, to give someone an opportunity to loot it. So if you're not going to be up or going to be around to collect your task when it completes, I would suggest waiting until the morning or whenever you're available to be around to actually complete the task before you send them out. So that's a little tip with regards to that. So let's get into getting points for base expansion, right? So you get points for speed ups and you get points for building power, right? So typically you can see I didn't really do a good job this week because I have no presents to pop except one. So as you may know, when you complete a building, it turns into a little present like this. And you don't get an increase in building power, and the building itself doesn't provide you with the increases of that building until you pop the present. And so normally what you see people do is you complete a bunch of buildings throughout the week, you save them wrapped, and then right when the base expansion day happens and the overlap with arms race happens, you go ahead and you pop those buildings and you get all of that power. You get all those versus points from doing that. So that's generally what you want to do. The other thing that you typically want to do on base expansion days is this is when you typically would upgrade your HQ, right? And that's what I'm going to do this base expansion day, which is going to be tomorrow. So you can see I have 10 days left on my HQ leveling up, but I have plenty of speed ups to complete that, right? So I can look at my speed ups, I can look on my statistics, and I can see that, I have 2 days of construction speed ups and I have 45 days of universal speed ups. So I'll be able to pop this right away. Now, usually when I upgrade my HQ, I usually like to start some of the major upgrades to get my HQ to the next level. And from, that's always the tech center. And the other thing kind of depends on what your base level is. Now, upgrading these costs a lot of resources, especially the higher you get. And also it's a lot of time, right? You can see if I'm upgrading my tech center, it's 28 days. And that's a ton of time. So typically when you're doing this, you want to take advantage of capital buffs. And what are capital buffs? So if you were to click on your profile and you go to your server, mine's 838, this will bring you to the capital, right? So you'll see there's different positions here, and each position gives different buffs. And what I want to focus on is Secretary of Development. So you can see that Secretary of Development increases your construction speed by 50%, which is a very big thing when you're talking about, upgrading something that's going to take 28 days to complete. If I can get a 50% increase, that's a significant number of days that gets knocked off my upgrade. Now, the math behind it, it's not like additive. So I'm not going to be able to just like knock this down from 28 days to 14 days. It doesn't really work like that, but it's still going to be many, many days that get knocked off. So what you want to do is you want to go to your server, and you want to click on this, and then you can go ahead and apply. And so once you apply, you get added to this list. And typically the vice president, aka first lady, will then accept you and you'll get added to the queue. And then once, you can see there's 9 people right now, I'll be the 10th person, and it will tell you like there's a start time local. So you can change like the time at the top right between local and server time. And it will tell you at what time you're expected to become the Secretary of Development. And the important part about this is that when you are awarded one of these positions, the impact of it is only when you start a construction or when you start a research, right? It's not like I don't become the Secretary of Development and then all of a sudden my already active, like if I become Secretary of Development and get a 50% reduction in construction speed, that does not impact my HQ level that's already under construction. So that's an important thing to note. You don't want to start the constructions until after you get the buff, and that applies to other secretary positions as well. So that's really all I wanted to talk about day 2 and base expansion. So day 3 is the Age of Science. And you'll notice here, you also get points for completing radar tasks today. So we already talked about radar tasks, right? Radar tasks you get points for on day 1, day 3, and day 5. So what does that mean? That means you use them all on day 1. You don't use any and you save them like I talked about on day 2, then you use them on day 3, then you save them on day 4, and then you use them on day 5. So, as we talked about earlier, save those radar tasks until you get points for them. And then the other thing, right? So this is research, and then there's some drone chests as well. So research works very similarly to the construction, right? You get points for using speed ups, and for when your research is complete and you click on it, you gain the power. That gives you the power for that. The one thing that's a little bit unique with research is that there are certain research activities that cost valor badges, right? These little like Emerald World, these little badges here that I have 21,000 of. So some research requires this and some does not. So what you want to do is you typically want to send the research that requires those badges on the Age of Science days to get you extra points. And you can, on days that you don't use them, or that isn't the Age of Science, like you would send research on things that don't cost badges. I mean, if you have a ton of them, like you can definitely do it in between. The Alliance duel, like what I talked about earlier, these, from what I recall, cost badges. So this is a good way to get points for verses and also increase the points you get for future verses as well. So sorry about the, hopefully you don't hear that. Cool. So that's kind of it for Age of Science Day. There's really not much going on there. Let's see. So next one is Train Heroes. Again, like for all these days, always look out for the arms race overlaps. So just keep that in mind. The hero day, there's really, it's all self-explanatory here, right? When you use your tickets, you send hero XP, all that, using the shards, the skill medals. If you have questions about heroes, I have another video on heroes and squads and things like that. So that's the day where you would send all that. Total mobilization is a little bit everything, right? So it's radar tasks and then essentially a little bit of everything, plus the training units. So training units is kind of a pain sometimes, and it's a little bit of a unique situation. So you can see that I have 4 barracks, and they're all at different levels. So I have one that's pretty low, level 14. I have one that's level 20, one that's 24, and one that's 27. So the reason that, like, at each level of barracks, certain levels, you unlock the ability to train certain level troops, right? So level 20 allows you to train level 7 troops, level 24, level 8, and level 27 is level 9. So if you have a tiered barracks approach like I do, like you can see, like I'm training level 5 units here, I'm training level 7 here, and I'm training level 8 here. And typically what I do is I'll train all of those troops, and then on this last barracks, this level 7 or 27 one, I never actually train level 9 troops from scratch. I always use this barracks to upgrade and promote current units that are lower, right? So, and this allows me to increase, like, it's a shorter time to train lower levels, and then you can do the promotion. So that's what you want to do. You want to train, like, hopefully you can establish a tiered barracks approach. You can train some lower level units and then use your other barracks to upgrade them because it's much faster. And then you can speed that up. And as you upgrade troops, it'll give you points for the verses on the day 5, the total mobilization one. So that is kind of all I wanted to talk about for total mobilization. So the last day is Enemy Buster. So Enemy Buster Day, Again, if there's dispatching the trucks in the legendary task, then you get points for using speed ups. But the big part of the day is getting points for killing units, specifically killing units from the alliance that you're facing. And the nice part about this day is if you handle it correctly, you can actually get, your 7.2 million chest within like the first 30 minutes, honestly, of the day. So what does this mean? So on Enemy Buster Day, you can go to this Alliance Assaults tab on the the far right tab on your verses, and this attack button will become active. And when you click on this attack button, it will allow you to port to the server of the alliance that you're facing. And you can go ahead and attack their bases to kill their units and get points for your verses. Now, there's a little bit of nuance and things that you want to be aware of when it comes to the Enemy Buster. Specifically, sometimes you might be a lower level and you just don't want to deal with the headache. You're worried that you're going to get attacked and get destroyed and lose all your troops and whatnot. And so typically what's very important for you to do to help your alliance out and yourself out is, if you're not going to participate, or if you're not going to be online when the Enemy Buster starts, is to shield up, right? So you can, in your alliance store, there's a bunch of shields that you can buy here, right? The Enemy Buster lasts 24 hours. So if you're not going to be able to, if you're not going to want to participate, just buy a 24-hour shield, pop it right after the reset happens, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything. For me, I like to participate, so I'm going to participate, right when the Enemy Buster starts. And then once I'm done participating, I'll put up a shield for when I go to bed, to make sure that I don't get attacked. The important thing to note is, right, like when you attack another player, or when you scout another player, you get a War Fever debuff. Let me see if I can find, so I'll just scout this person here. So you can see I have this War Fever debuff / buff, and this gives me a boost to my attack, but during this, I also cannot shield. So keep that in mind, that when you do attack someone, you won't be able to shield up for 15 minutes. And that's where, like, it can come in, it can be helpful having this ability to teleport to the other server. This is a free teleport, by the way. So I can click on attack, I can teleport to the other server, I can attack someone, or I can teleport to the other server and put myself in some random corner away from every other alliance to hide. And to return back to my server, I go back to this tab, and this button, instead of saying attack, it will say return. And I can click on return, and it will return me to my server. And again, I can place myself wherever I want to go for free. Keep in mind that when you do return back to your server, there's a 5-minute cooldown before you can port back to the Alliance server for free. So that is kind of the gist of that, or of the Enemy Buster. The other thing that you do see, it's more of like an attacking strategy. It's going to be hard for me to show you here, but during Enemy Buster, if you have a shield up, you can still garrison, and you can still join rallies without losing your shield. So sometimes what you might see is one person that is unshielded will go to their attack, the server that they're attacking, and 4 other people will come with them with the shield on, and they'll garrison that person to help them avoid being attacked. And the other person can start a rally and have all of them join it to attack other players. So this is something that you can try and you can do with some members of your alliance if you're a weaker power, or want to try out some new techniques. So that's something to consider and something to try if that's something you want to do. So that's really all of the different versus days and the different strategies, different techniques. The last thing I guess we can talk about a little bit is the rewards, right? So we already talked about these 6 chests that you can open up at the end of every day, depending upon where you rank in that day. You get some rewards for that, and then you also with these leagues, right? There's like a 4-week kind of season, quote unquote, where you face other people, and depending upon your placement at the end of the 4 weeks, you also get some nice rewards here, right? So something to look forward to. Again, like the Diamond League is definitely gives you the best stuff. So something to strive for you and your alliance, definitely. Yeah, so that should pretty much cover everything. If you think I missed anything, or if you have any questions, feel free to put in the comments and I'll get back to you. Anyway, happy hunting.